Welcome back to Capricorn After Hours, where the panel and I have some extra time to discuss things alongside Brandon McGee, Joe Arasimowicz, Lizzie Kranowitz, Johnny Mack. Hey guys, goody gumdrops, good news. They say there'll be a special session the 12th and 13th or 11th and 12th of November. And, you know, Mark Twain says the citizenry is always in danger when the legislature is in session. They got 2 days to get stuff done. What are they going to do, guys?
Nothing.
They're not going to tell anybody what they're going to do until they do it.
Let's do a study on housing.
Yeah.
You have to vote for the bill in order to, you know, pass the bill, and then you need to read the bill.
Look, I think this is going to go two ways, right? Because I think you're going to see Republicans come to the table. They've already put proposals on the table that are going to address corruption, that are going to address good governance, that are going to talk about utilities. I think you're going to see a very interesting special session. Democrats may bite off more than they can chew.
But I would imagine, though, Joe, that the Democrats are going to say those aren't within the purview of the call.
The call, right? Yeah. Gavel them down, right?
So special session is established two ways. Either the legislature calls itself in or the governor calls you in. What is totally alike on both cases, you agree to what is in the call. Leaders typically limit the call, so it's items that they really do want to act upon. In this particular case, it's going to be moving some money around, some $500 million to cover some of the shortfall of federal government. We're told there will be a housing bill. Nobody's seen it yet to vet it, but it's going to be a housing bill. And maybe one or two other things. So unlike regular session, the Republicans are really going to be limited unless they're included in the call and propose something prior to, or are able to couch it in a way that fits in this.
There's always an amendment.
But they're going to need a 3/5 vote to pass the $500 million slush fund, quite frankly.
I wouldn't refer to it as a slush.
No, but it's, my concern is, you know, we're going to put $500 million, you need 3/5 because of the volatility cap, but we don't know where the money's going, right?
Well,
at the end of the day, I'm not opposed to using some of the surplus money to deal with rainy day type problems, but there aren't specific directions
but
of
John,
some of these monies.
I think a lot of this is really depending on what is happening in Washington, D.C. So it's really hard to predict substantially around like finances, how much should we plan for, what's going to happen. And so the session is important. I don't think this is a slush fund. I'm hearing from communities throughout the state, particularly those who represent Black and Latino Hispanic communities throughout Connecticut, saying, hey, we're being hit right now. Like, we're feeling this thing, and we hope something will happen in session to address those concerns.
So I understand that.
Not limited to, because I think oftentimes folks just think it's just black and brown. They're poor white folks
But
throughout the state.
We have a rainy day fund.
Yeah.
They want to put $500 million into a separate fund.
That's right.
And then later they're going to have to vote to appropriate those dollars where they're going to go if they're needed. So I don't know what the urgency is to do that now. With respect to the housing bill, this is deja vu all over again. Look, I like Jason Rojas. I know how hard he's worked on these issues. I agree with him on some of it. I don't agree with him on some of it, but that's just, you know, policy.
Are you saying the housing piece?
The housing piece specifically. But this does not seem like everybody's around the table working on it. That's what doomed it the first time. That's what's going to doom it again. Whether he likes it or not, and whether he's done it in private or not, he needs publicly, in the governor's office, Republican leaders, Democratic leaders, housing advocates, in a room for hours knocking this out.
Want to be
Absolutely.
They have asked to be in the room.
Yeah,
I mean, and go back to when, remember Joe Zullo's video, right, about the housing
Sitting in
bill?
front of the door?
Who could forget it?
Tony Scott and Joe Zullo have both been very vocal about saying we want a seat at the table. And I think, again, there are things that if they really wanted to get something done on housing in a special session, we all know that there are bipartisan issues and policy initiatives that were included in that big aircraft carrier housing bill that they can all agree to. Start with a yes. Come to the table with things that everybody can agree on and get something done, because right now they are still at odds over fair share numbers, and that is not going away. That debate is still raging and they don't have agreement.
I want to give the administration some credit. I will tell you over the last month, based on the people I talked to, there has been conversations. It may not have been everybody around the table, which John, you and I fully agree that's how really you come to a deal, but they have been vetting pieces. I believe when we see a housing bill, it's going to be a lot different than the one that passed, but the governor vetoed, and it is going to take a lot of the things that Republicans raised into consideration in the bill. I know there's conversations
But Joe,
happening.
you and I both, in order for that to happen and for it to be successful, it is so much better to allow and invite Republicans into that process to be an iterative and pivotal part of crafting that policy, because if you don't, you are leaving yourselves open.
But Representative Weir, Republican, and a few others have been part of the process. They have been talked to.
But we know there are organizations on both sides of this issue, right? And they represent a lot of people follow them. The other reason why it's important to have everybody in the room, you know, with Mike Cerulli there with a camera watching them all go in to meet the governor, is so that those people think it's a transparent and fair process. Right now, they're not seeing transparency, and that breeds mistrust.
But John,
There's
there's been all kinds of working groups and Republicans and Democrats sitting around the table and working. And I know we are at a place now where we need the administration to lean in a little bit more and perhaps put out the olive branch even more, right? But this idea that everybody's going to kumbaya around yucky issues as described, it's not going to.
It's not kumbaya, but in the fall of 2011, Dan Malloy's first term, we did a special session on the economy. And Larry Cafaro and I were in the office with Governor Malloy and Speaker Donovan and President Williams every single day. And it wasn't all kumbaya. We had our arguments. Sometimes it was Malloy, McKinney, and Cafaro against the Democrats.
And I think that's a good thing.
But at the end of the day, we put our arguments, disagreements were over here, all agreements were here, we moved forward on all the agreements.
I still don't understand how we ended up in a place where there were amendments on the table that if they'd been called and voted on would have made this bill much better, and something that the governor may have not had to veto.
I don't think he would have. I think
I think that's where this whole thing, when you just go back to your old familiar place and you are running the same play over and over and over again. Look, Republicans gave you all of the ideas and all of the keys to get to a place where people can agree to this. If you're not going to include those things, then once again, you are dooming your own bill to failure. And I will say this, I think that's exactly what happened the first time, right? And you see that in some of the text messages that came out after the fact that have been published between Democrat legislators and Democrat advocates around the state and the governor, right? Democrats were begging him to veto this because of the implications politically. And don't for a second think that that's not an active part of what's happening in the governor's thought process as he's facing a re-election with all of these other issues flaming up everywhere he goes.
Actually,
watch what you do.
There were Democrats who voted against the bill who were encouraging the governor to sign it, which is even crazier.
Even worse.
But the governor needs to put this to bed as well, which is why he needs to get them all in a room and say, we're going to get to yes.
Well, and look like
You're
a
not going to
leader.
get everything you want. You're not going to get everything you want, but we're going to move
But
forward.
You have to look like a leader.
Don't lose sight of the end goal here, and that is to create more diverse housing throughout the
100%.
state, right? But not beating municipalities over the head, and I get it.
Correct.
Right.
And when we talk about affordable housing, we spend a lot of time talking about black and brown people, right? Like somehow that's, when you talk about it, reality is the kids that I've coached in football cannot afford to move back to the town they grew up in because astronomical house prices.
100%.
And we have to fix that.
But
It's
there's
all
so
across
many
America right now.
But
Yes.
there are so many bigger issues related to housing. You're talking about infrastructure. There are towns all over the state who cannot afford, literally, to improve the infrastructure, water, sewer, right?
Roads, bridges,
all of these
schools.
things that are required if you have more people living. If you don't have the right water and sewer, you can't grow your community. So this is why you really have to be careful about pointing fingers at smaller towns, because at the end of the day, there's so much infrastructure lacking in every single community that even if they wanted
You
to,
gonna
they
strap
can't
hang?
do it.
Look, she not only knows strategy, she knows policy.
Are you going to
So,
strap
right?
hang? Are you strap hanging in special session?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Who doesn't? Let's go.
Let's be there.
It'll be
guys,
a trip.
Let's take a quick break. You know, the Murph was on with Newsom. We'll get to that when we get back. Don't go away. All right, guys, we're back after hours after a spirit discussion of the special session. Now on to the Murph. You know, he's going to be running for president, they say, in 2028. And ahead of that, he's kind of getting out there a lot and kind of touching all those Democratic bases. He went on a podcast with California Governor Newsom. Watch what he had to say about this. Watch this.
Let's just make sure that those premium increases don't go into effect. And then second, let's make sure that if we write a budget that says you have to spend money in all 50 states, the president is actually required to spend money in all 50 states instead of not spending money in places like California and New York and Connecticut that are represented by Democrats and spending money in states represented by Republicans. So, I mean, our asks are pretty minimalist. Just don't make the healthcare system any worse. Don't jack up premiums on people by 75%, and don't act lawlessly. If we get those two things included in this budget, then I think you're going to see Democratic votes. And I think increasingly the American public are sort of beginning to see that, you know, what we're asking for is pretty damn popular and not terribly piggish.
Well, Makita, you always loved taking the beginning of this kind of this kind of. If you watch the whole podcast, it was scorched earth on. It was a target-rich environment on Trump. I mean, it was. He went
shocked.
after.
It was,
shocked.
but the best part was
Shocked into
when
space.
Governor Newsom asked Chris Murphy about the state of the Democratic Party now and are we doing better? And Chris Murphy's like, well, obviously not. If you look at the polling, we're at our lowest position point we've ever been. I'm like, gee, Senator, do you think you have a role in why Democrats are viewed so
No.
poorly across America?
Donald Trump's
The other take I have on this is there's no way Gavin Newsom would have someone who he views as a real threat for the Democratic nomination in 2028 on his podcast. That's what tells you what he thinks. And I've said this before, my last point. I don't think any of the governors fear anybody
Agreed.
in Congress right now, because on that debate stage, they're going to get up and say, hey, America, Democrats, see that mess in Washington?
That's right.
They're part of it.
Yep.
I've done this in my state. I've done that in my state. So
Yeah,
that just
I don't-
tells you
I
what
don't-
Gavin Newsom thinks about
I-
Chris Murphy's presidential run.
I think that's really cutesy. That's a new word.
It could say, I like it.
But I don't agree with that, right? I believe that Gavin and Chris are raising the profile of these issues that have been impacting America, quite frankly, by this current president. And I truly believe, sure, there is a little low-key competition, as the kids would say, but on the same token, let's bring it back to Connecticut. This shutdown is slamming us. It's hurting us, and why not, Chris Murphy? Lead the conversation, let folks know like what's really going on, and break it down for the average American, no matter what side of the aisle that you're on. We're hurting,
Yes.
and it's not a good thing right now. So sure, invite them on your podcast. Do your thing. These are the two most popular, guys in politics, if you ask me, nationally. Why not use their influence?
I think it's great because the conversation wasn't really about solutions. And Chris Murphy and Dick Blumenthal and every member of Connecticut's congressional delegation has voted over and over and over again to shut the government down. And so I think unless they're willing to answer why they'll continue to do that, as John, you've pointed out over and over again, what is on the table is to continue the same funding level as the Biden administration. And so now you're rejecting the Biden administration funding levels. At the end of the day, Democrats are not coming to the table with solutions. And I think what you're going to see most likely is a very rough road ahead for Democrats in the midterm, particularly in the United States Senate. I think it's going to be very difficult because of the role they have played in shutting down the government. And the polling says 63% of Americans believe Democrats should not shut down the government because they don't get what they want. 43% of Kamala Harris voters believe that. 60% of independent voters believe that. So our business, perception is reality. And unfortunately for Democrats, they're going to be on the wrong side of that.
I don't know how it plays to midterms, and at this point, I almost don't even care. The dysfunction has to stop. So I guess my question overall is, How can they enter into any type of deal making if the president's office, the administration, believes they have the power of the purse? And no matter what is agreed upon in the Senate or the House, that he or the administration can decide.
And the Republicans don't push back on it.
And they don't
push back. They said, it's all yours.
You are
all yours.
The Republican Party in D.C., not as a whole, because I hear from Republicans around this state, they're very disappointed. They've given them not only the keys to the car, they've given them unlimited gas, they've insured them forever. He is doing things that are not good for this country.
And there may be
They're
some
not standing
victories
up.
in the lower courts, but the Supreme Court, he's batting pretty well.
But what about the common sense test? What about us as citizens standing up and saying it's not okay just to blow up a ship out in the Caribbean regardless? You need to know what they have. What about immigration? It's not okay to be tackling people to the ground, putting your knees in the back, or shooting a priest in the head.
In Hamden. In Hamden.
Like,
So to
enough.
use
car
your
washes.
analogy,
Yes.
it's not okay to blow up our government and not pay any of the employments because of some of the things he's doing.
So-
he hasn't, you talked about him having the power of the purse. He
They
has
claim they have
he
it.
has-
He's not supposed to have
But
it.
he has not suspended all spending. He has done some cutbacks that they don't think he has the power to do. But what you're saying is blow everything up because of that.
At some
Don't
point-
blow up the boat because you want to know who they are. Don't blow up the government
Yes.
because you have a disagreement over something.
That's right.
But that's what Democrats are doing.
No,
They're blowing
not,
up the
John.
government.
no
There is no
responsibility on
ability
Donald
to
Trump's
strike a
behalf.
deal if you can't shake hands with the person across from you and know they're going to
They're
live up
not
to it.
asking for a deal. They're asking to continue the resolution.
It is what happened in June. You guys sit here every week and say they voted for it in June, they're not voting for it now. And immediately after it passed in June, the president looked at him and said, yeah, great deal.
Great deal.
No, I am not funding that.
Yeah.
How do you enter a deal?
You're gonna get more laid off federal employees without a government open than
At
you are.
some point,
you're gonna be hurting real Americans by not opening up the government.
Thank you, Donald Trump.
So, but it's all our fault.
You're not
The
voting
Democrats.
And there was an
No,
article.
but
There was an
right-
article.
But how do you keep
Even
it?
Jake Tapper, who is a pro-Democrat spokesperson on TV, said the people who vote against opening the government are the people who are against opening the government. Right now, all Republicans except for two, Rand Paul and the congressman from Kentucky, have voted for a continuing resolution to keep the government open, and all Democrats except for three in the Senate have voted to not open
Okay.
up the government. That's a fact.
Let me do this with you, John, because you
That is
really,
a fact.
You are.
Acknowledge that.
It is a fact. I'll give you that. But you and I are working in the state capitol. We come to an agreement on a bill. We shake hands. I go off to the House and tell Brendan, forget about McKinney. We're doing it this way. And we pass it in the House and the Senate. The next session, I walk up to you, John McKinney, and John, you got that issue in your town. Let's talk. Let's work this out. What are you going to say to me?
I'm sorry.
Do you
but
know?
you're
Do you
gonna-
know,
hold
do you
on.
know that?
Go
Wait,
away.
do you
You don't
remember?
honor your deal.
Wait, do you remember? Do you remember when we had a special committee to investigate Senator Lou DeLuca, and Don Williams and Marty Looney had a deal with me for a permanent ethics commission? And after that was over, I put the ethics commission on the floor every single year, and they said no.
How about this?
Don't tell me
Did you
about
view
that.
them
We,
differently?
how about this? We just
Liz, you
had-
take the last
Doesn't
word. Take
matter.
a break. We'll
I
get
didn't
back
vote
at
to
it.
shut the government down
we
because
just-
they weren't honest
We
with me.
just had a conversation about the Contracting Standards Board. This was passed in the budget, approved by Republicans and Democrats. The Senate Appropriations Co-Chair, Kathy Austin, chided Ned Lamont for discarding what was passed in the budget and doing what he wanted to do anyway. I'm sorry,
It was
Joe.
him
I'm
making
sorry,
appointments.
Joe.
That's all it
I'm
was.
sorry,
And is
Joe.
it- is
Nope,
it fully
they cut-
fund- is it fully
was-
staffed now?
It was not. They cut five
is it
positions
fully
from the
staffed
budget.
now?
They cut 5 positions
Fired
from
up.
the budget.
Fired up.
And
Is
what
it
I'm
fully
saying
staffed
to
now?
you,
Fully staffed.
what I'm saying to you
Now.
is you are going down
Keyword.
a very bad road.
All right, guys.
Politicians making deals
I'm
and
not a
then going
politician.
back on them.
I'm never going to be on the
Let's
ballot
take a
again.
break. All right, guys, let's take a break. Fired up here, panel. Just come back.
goes-
Come back. Getting the,
I
we're
just
getting
got him
makeup-
on another one for
the
anybody
makeup
that's
guy in here.
wondering. He's
All right,
not
the
happy
big-
about that.
The big finish where I get to quiz the panel on interesting things that we found in the news today. Rosa DeLauro caught at a swanky bar in a restaurant called, what was it, the Lobby Bar. You've been to the Lobby Bar on Capitol Hill.
It's nice.
Eating oysters.
I haven't been there, but
Eating
I've heard it's
oysters,
nice.
and quote unquote, until a plane falls out of the sky. Who's into oysters? You oysters?
love oysters.
Oysters? All right, so you got Rosa on that one, okay?
Never.
Never.
Oysters, out.
Never.
I love oysters.
Oysters, all right?
oysters.
Right,
Love.
Love it?
Love
Right,
oysters.
so you got that. So,
They're fantastic.
So Himes is, there's a video of Himes shucking oysters.
Yeah, he farms his own
into,
oysters. Yeah, he goes-
into a garbage can in his house office. You can't do that.
Actually,
Why not?
You can't
No,
put oyster
actually-
shells into that.
Tom, we
smelly.
chastised him because he
That
wasn't
is-
wearing a glove, and he said,
Right.
I'm a professional. I don't need to.
Right. Topic number 2, early voting starts tomorrow, Monday the 20th. Who's going to vote early this year?
Nobody. No. I think the numbers are going to be probably
And here's
low.
the
'Cause you have to
question.
drive
I
to-
support it, but I want to go in.
I love going
I
on
like
election
walking in.
day. I'm
But
old.
I know, but there's been a discussion about how much it actually costs to staff and Danielle Wong, who is the mayor of Bloomfield, talked about this.
Yes.
It's expensive, and we'll see how many people are actually voting early in municipal elections.
It's going-
There's
But I've
not a
always been
lot.
a
going to be
proponent
very
of
low.
creating access, right? And so if you're going to do it, let's do it. I support it. I just choose to walk
The
in.
issue-
But it's a lot of money,
But
Brandon.
the issue is that you have to drive turnout, right? And that's always the case from
That's
a
right.
campaign side. With early voting, you have to change the seasonality of when an individual voter decides they want to go to the polls. And that takes a lot of money and grassroots effort to get people to go and vote. You got to send them the text messages and the ads, and you
Yeah.
got to call them, you got to knock their door. It's a lot of effort, and you don't have campaigns that are that prepared for that in a municipal
It's a
election.
burden on our small towns and our big cities to have too many days of early voting. And I think we need to constantly look at it. Who is voting all these days ahead, and how much is it costing our towns?
The
and cities?
legislature wanted 10 days, and Stephanie Thomas
You
said, I'm
gotta
going to
just
do
jump
whatever I
in.
want.
Yeah, I think what upsets me the most is when I look at some of the biggest cities on municipal elections and you see
Yes.
they're voting less than
Very low.
20%, around 20%. That's not indicative of the voice of the people. And I think our answer was, well, let's make it more available and continue to dig at why people aren't
My
turning out.
answer would be getting better.
All right, guys, $145 million upgrade to the People's Bank Arena, formerly the XL Center, formerly the Hartford Center, Civic Center. Who's going in the good seats? All right, good seats, mezzanine seats right there.
Are you hosting?
Yeah, right?
I will host.
Air Simmons, you're
I will
always there,
host.
Senator.
I am a Hartford boy.
I'm always
through
there,
through.
and I got to tell you, I watched Channel 8 last night, and a little behind the scenes.
Yeah,
thing
Oh,
sure.
it's
yeah.
amazing.
Danny Hart did a big
Yeah.
piece on that.
I'll go-
Long overdue
I'll go.
upgrade.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I love
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Civic
yeah.
Center.
No one's going to give you seats. You're a Republican.
No, I
You
know.
got to go.
No, I'm gonna
the
have to
Democrats
pay
are
my-
McKinney,
I
you
have
gotta
to
go.
pay him
We have
here
to
for
buy
him.
our seats.
I have to
You
pay
gonna
my
go?
own way.
You
I'll
gonna
go.
go?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Right. You
I'll
guys
go
are-
watch.
that's not
I'll go
right.
watch
We
the
have to buy
Connecticut
our-
Sun play.
Next to last
I
topic.
never took them in the legislature because they're-
Next to last topic, WWE President Vince McMahon got accelerated rehabilitation for driving his Bentley recklessly on the Merritt Parkway. Would you drive with Vince McMahon?
No.
No. You drive with Vince McMahon?
No.
I would have a driver.
Okay, well,
100%.
You're
If
driving
he's
with
willing
Vince.
to tell me all the stories,
That would be.
I'll drive.
First of all,
Right.
Vince McMahon is
Leak
a
your
lovely
text
person.
message.
He is. I've
He is
met
a
him.
lovely man.
How much time we have? How much time we have left?
else
in
do
this?
you wanna talk
How much time
about?
we have left?
the stories that
Left, 3 minutes left. And the last question is Ashley Baylor too young to be going down to the villages? Come over here.
Tom,
Look at that.
as someone who did Ashley.
Go into the villages.
Wow, I would have chosen different shoes. I don't know.
You can't see your shoes.
We're going to miss you.
Yeah,
So what are you gonna do?
yes.
So you know what? They created a wonderful job for me in the Villages. I'm going to be working for the Villages Media Group, so I'm going to be their first meteorologist ever doing all forms of media, from newspaper to radio to TV, their version of TV, and digital. So it's going to be mine to create and mold and develop.
And you're going to get some real storms down there, not like
Right.
the stuff we have up here, right?
Yeah, it'd actually be chasing hurricanes down there and battling gators and all of that sort of nonsense.
And we were talking about with Brandon, who doesn't know how many people live in Hartford. I told him 140,000 people
Yeah.
live in the villages.
It's about, almost 140,000 people. They own 80 square miles, 60 square miles are developed. So it's massive. So when you say retirement
golf
community,
courses.
it's like that, but
A lot of golf
And how
courses.
many golf carts are there in the villages?
not enough. I bought my golf cart. I bought a home down there.
Nice. Do you name your golf cart?
Oh, I'm going to have to come up with something good.
Okay.
I think
And
that's
how's your shuffleboard skills?
Gator Wrangler.
How's the shuffleboard skills?
Not as good as my bocce skills.
Well, Ashley Baylor, good to have you with us. Huh?
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
We're going to miss you.
We are going to miss you.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for the Capital Pro After Hours with special guest Ashley Baylor. She was on the PLR with Chaz and AJ.
I
The
saw
big
that.
send-off there, huh? All right, guys, Liz, you do it this time, huh?
All right, Liz, let me
All right,
record.
let's go.
Oh, jeez. All right, guys. That's
try
good for
again.
this
Let me try
week.
Okay, that was short. Let's go.
Redemption.
Johnny, it was really.
Forget it. Forget it. Forget it.
Losers.
All right.
As
See you guys
each
next week.
Losers in every way.
Next week, that's going to have some gin or vodka in it. We'll see how I do.
Why don't you bring a soup bowl with a handle and put it in front of Tom?
Give me a lacrosse stick. Maybe I can do it then.
Right.